Okay, so in an exclusive agreement, as a distributor, you want to know what you have exclusive right. Is it just the product itself, or its upgrade, or improvements, next generation replacement, and all the possible combinations that can be created by key parts, all the products under different brand names. Okay? Also, as a supplier, you want to know what you are giving up, right? As supplier, as you are granting exclusive right to the distributor, you are giving up part of the market. As to the territory, supplier is giving up its revenue potential with respect to whatever the exclusive products, or whatever the products that you are giving away the exclusive right to. So if you are giving away exclusive products and its upgrade and improvements, next generation replacement, key parts thereof, including OEM, then you are giving away a lot more, right? You are giving away the market potential outside the territory, market potential within the territory with respect to all of this, right? But if the contract says just the products, KX100, whatever, then as a supplier you are giving up the market potential only with respect to that product itself. So as a distributor, do you want to lengthen? Do you want to add all this? Or do you want to shorten the definition of the products? Do you want to lengthen or shorten the definition of the products? As a distributor. Lengthen. Okay? Because you want to include as much, right? Now, another question I get a lot when I was a lawyer. Again, this is a supplier selling some products to distributor in the territory. So supplier, in accordance with the agreement, is not selling this product. So let's say selling X. Okay? It's not selling X in the territory. But S is selling X to this other territory, territory 2, to another distributor, right? And this other distributor in the other territory sells X in distributor's territory. Is this a violation of the exclusivity? What do you think? What's more, okay, well, think about that. Think about that. There is an even more important question. Let's say supplier let's say somebody, okay, we can start from a more fundamental question. Let's say somebody within the territory is selling X. What can distributor do to this person selling X. Distributor has, again, exclusive right to sell X within the territory, and there is someone else selling X. What can D do to this other guy? Anyone?
But in my understanding, the distributor is supposed to tell the supplier to prohibit the another distributor who sells X in the territory.
Okay.
Maybe.
So distributor cannot sue that other guy selling X?
Distributor can sue the seller and the other party who is distributing the same good in his territory.
Under what law?
What law?
Yeah. Let's call that guy Y. Right? No, not Y. Let's call that guy D3. Okay, can D sue D3? If so, under what right? Under what law? The answer is no. D cannot sue D3 because the exclusive right that D has is only with respect to the supplier. It's not with respect to any other person. Whatever right that he has it within the contract. With D3, there is no contractual relationship. There is nothing that D can do to D3. So your initial answer is correct. D can tell X to stop selling because D3 is selling X, so X must have come from S, right? Come from the supplier. So supplier must stop whatever the supply line it is that led to D3 that's selling the product. Usually, what happens is this. S sells to D2, and D2 sells X. Okay? And D2 sells to the distributor's territory. Now, how can you stop that? Now, D is not in any contractual relationship with the D2, right? Distributor is not in any contractual relationship with D2, so distributor cannot do anything to D2. What can you do? Well, you can do something to supplier. So, what the distributor wants to do is procure the right to sue supplier if supplier somehow helps distributing the products in the territory. So you will want to have a clause, something like supplier may not distribute X within the territory. But then again, you don't really need to say it because the term exclusive distributor already includes a promise by supplier that it will not distribute in the territory. But to make sure, you want to add something like supplier shall not knowingly, supplier shall not only not distribute in the territory, but also should not distribute to other parties so that they come to the territory, right? Then supplier will say something like, hey, how do we know in advance what these other guys will be doing? Okay? When I sell to D2, I expect the products only to be distributed within the territory too. How do I know that it gets distributed over to, your territory? Right? So you add something like knowingly. Okay, well, then just don't do it when you know that the products you sell to D2 will come to distributor's territory. Okay? So you need a clause like that. If you are the distributor, if you want to be protected from this possibility, 그걸 이제 우회 수입이라고 하죠. If you want to protect it from this parallel import, okay, then or secondary import to your territory, you want to have some clause like that. Now, second thing. How about supplier's point of view? Now, let's say distributor. Now, distributor has the exclusive right to sell within the territory. There is a question. Can distributors sell outside the territory? Let's say the contract only says that distributor is the exclusive distributor within the territory. Then does it mean that distributor cannot distribute outside the territory? No. Okay. If it just has that phrase, that distributor is an exclusive distributor, that doesn't mean that he cannot sell outside the territory. Okay. So, as a supplier, if you want to stop that, if you want to stop distributor from distributing outside the territory, you also want another clause. Okay. Now, as a supplier, why do you want to stop distributor from distributing outside the territory? Why do you want to do that? I mean, if distributor sells a lot, that means distributor has to buy a lot from the supplier, more revenue. What's wrong with letting distributor sell wherever it wants to sell, in addition to the exclusive sale within the territory? What's wrong with allowing distributor to sell in as many places as possible? Yes?
Another exclusive distributor can sue the...
Yes. Yes. You want to see, if you are a supplier, you want to have exclusive distributor in each territory. And if this distributor sells outside the territory, it conflicts with the exclusive distributorship of other distributors serving the seller, serving the supplier. Now, the fight between distributors can get nasty. Sometimes it's nasty, much more nasty than between supplier and a distributor. Okay. Now, supplier has a good product, good brand. Distributor doesn't want to sue supplier, but distributor is willing to sue other distributors, okay, D3, D4, when they encroach upon each other's territory. But, as I said, as much as distributors want to sue each other, they cannot, because they are not in any contractual relationship with each other. So what do? They end up suing supplier. So as a supplier, it's really important that you keep all these territories separate from one another, protected from one another. So you want to have a clause that governs distributors' conduct outside the territory. But again, distributor may have the same defense. Distributor may say, hey, I sold only within this territory. I sold only within the territory. But, you know, one of these guys that I sold to D minus, he bought like 100 of my products and he sold to D3. I mean, he sold to D3's territory. He sold outside the territory. It's not my responsibility. Knowingly. Well, don't do that once you find out that your products are leaving the territory. Again, all this comes from the fact that you want to have exclusive distributors. Okay. Now, look at your sample contract and see if there are these two provisions or any protection that can work like these two provisions. Any provision that governs supplier's conduct inside the territory, or any provision that covers distributors' conduct, that governs distributors' conduct outside the territory. So, did you find anything? Anyone? Did you find anything that corresponds to the protections that I talked about? Is there a clause that governs supplier's conduct inside the territory? Yes? No? Anything? Is there anything that that governs supplier's conduct inside the territory, but maybe gives too much right to the supplier? Anyone? Okay. All right. Yes.
Clause 1.4.
1.4.
I think that
Okay. ABC may sell products, support service directly to OEMs located inside the territory. Okay. So is this something that if you are a distributors council, how to react? Well, you react.
As long as the ABC gets permission of the distributor or the consent.
Okay, that's true. You are being too nice. You are being too gentle. If you are distributors council, the first thing that you want to say is, take it out. Okay? This isn't exclusive distributors agreement. And especially if you already obtained, if you already included in your definition of the exclusive products any OEMs, okay, any OEM-made products, if you included that, then that means you cannot give this up either. Actually, the clause that governs supplier's conduct is here. ABC may, right, consistent with the distributor's appointment hereunder, distributors sell all licensed products to OEMs inside the territory for delivery and use inside the territory. Okay? That goes against your definition of exclusivity. Because if you already had included OEM under your definition of exclusive product, then having this permission to ABC to sell to OEMs just goes directly against it. So you want to actually take this out first. If you are listening. Okay. Sorry. Okay. How about clause? How about clause covering this distributor's conduct outside the territory? Did you find anything corresponding to that? Anyone? Yes? No? This one must have been easy for you. Which one? 1.2. Okay, well, let's look at 1.2. There we go. Distributor is not authorized to market or sell any of the products from marketing outlets, blah, 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 outside the territory. Okay. Or from marketing outlets located inside the territory to dealers, agents, representatives, or dealers outside the territory. Or by mail order. Well, these days there is no mail order, there is internet order. Right? And then it even has this: distributors will refrain from actively marketing products to dealers, agents, representatives of distributors outside the territory. But nothing in this agreement shall be deemed to prevent distributor from marketing any of the products from marketing outlets within the territory for delivery to end users located outside the territory. So as long as it's sold to end users, right? So the last sentence says, hey, distributor, you market only within the territory, but if the products somehow go outside the territory, it's okay as long as it goes directly to the end users. Okay? So this must be some sort of consumer equipment. Some equipment where there is a clear distinction between end user and intermediary user or intermediary supplier. So all these games you must be ready to play to negotiate a good contract. Now, this is entirely from supplier's point of view. From supplier's point of view, by granting exclusive right to market product to another company, supplier is giving up a share of the global market. So, if the distributor doesn't do well, supplier loses that part of the global market, right? So there is that risk. So to cover that risk, usually there are these 4 protections for the supplier. The first protection is minimum purchase quantity. So if I grant you the exclusivity, but for the first 1 year you have to buy from me this much product. For the second year, greater number of products, because now you spend the whole year marketing. Okay, you must have built up the market. You must have done advertising, so you should be able to sell more. The third year, even more. Okay. Can you check? Well, so that's minimum purchase quantity. And territory. You want to, if you are a supplier, do you want the territory to be bigger or smaller? Smaller. Okay. Now, sales efforts. Well, let's do the sales efforts the last. Term of exclusivity. How long the exclusive contract is. Do you as a supplier, do you want a longer contract or a shorter contract? Short. And then there are just 3 different ways of setting the term of exclusivity. There are times that a supplier can terminate at will. Terminate at will. Now, this is something that supplier will love to have, right? Now, from the distributor's point of view, this will be hell to have a at-will terminable contract as like hell, because you can't decide how much you can invest in marketing and advertising the products. So, as a distributor, you want the term to be as long as possible. Okay? That's why the length is important. Now, the last one is sales efforts. Now, beside the minimum purchase quantity, you want the distributor to do more than that. Okay? You want to put on the distributor an obligation to do something more than minimum purchase if the distributor can do it. So there are different levels of sales efforts that supplier can require of distributor. At the very bottom, supplier can require distributor to make a good faith efforts. That's the lowest level. Something stronger than that will be reasonable efforts. These days, it just doesn't say reasonable. It usually says commercially reasonable efforts. Something stronger than that is best efforts. Something even stronger is exclusivity. Now, this means that as a distributor, you can sell only my products. You cannot sell anything else. So that binds your fate to my product's fate. Okay? This way, you will have to work hard to stay alive. You will have to work hard to sell my products to stay alive. That's the message you are sending by adding exclusivity clause. Now, don't be confused. This is different exclusivity from the one that I talked about earlier. Right? This is a supplier's exclusivity, not distributor's exclusivity. Okay? Now, you may think that, oh, these are all just, words play. What's the difference between good faith efforts and best efforts? What's the difference between reasonable efforts and best efforts? But believe me, there are lawsuits on the difference between exclusive effort, or difference between best efforts and commercially reasonable efforts and good faith efforts. Again, there will be extra credit. If anyone finds any arbitration case or court case that covered dispute on the interpretation of best efforts or good faith efforts. Best efforts means you really have to make best efforts. For instance, let's say distributor is selling suppliers' products and put in advertising of $1 million. But the supplier is selling, but the distributor is selling another company's products and put in advertising of $2 million. Then supplier has a very good starting point to argue that distributor did not make best efforts. Okay? So this is not so much of a words play. This is a substantial negotiation. Now let's go back to the minimum purchase quantity. Let's say minimum purchase quantity has been violated by the distributor. Distributor was supposed to sell $1 million in the first year, but sold only $500,000. Okay. What should be the remedy? What should be the remedy for exclusive distributor not meeting the minimum purchase quantity? What should be the remedy? A lot of times you will see contracts that say, hey, if the minimum purchase is not satisfied, then now you lose the exclusivity. Now you remain as a non-exclusive distributor. But is that wise? Is that wise? If I were the supplier's counsel, I'll never recommend that. Because leaving any one non-exclusive distributor in the territory means you cannot appoint somebody else as an exclusive distributor for that territory. Right? So you don't want to leave anyone hanging within that territory. You may enter into, you may find another company as an exclusive distributor and just put in a clause there that makes an exception for the previous exclusive distributor that is now a non-exclusive. But as I said, there will be a lot of fight between the new exclusive distributor and the previous exclusive distributor that's now non-exclusive. You don't want to do that. If there is a violation of a clause, if there is a violation of agreement, then it should be treated like any other violation of the agreement, which means terminate. Okay. And you start over. You find a new company for your exclusive distributor. Okay, so I told you about 4 protections for supplier. Okay, can you look through the agreement and then find the parts that correspond to each? Okay, anyone has found the minimum purchase quantity? Yes, no? No. Okay, so supplier maybe did not look carefully over this contract. Or maybe not. Has anyone found territory? Okay, territory is there, right? Let's not spend too much time there. How about sales efforts? 3.1. Well, let's look at it. Distributor agrees to until this is terminated in accordance with the provisions hereof. It will use its best efforts to market, promise, sales, support, delivery, install the product in the territory, and to provide customers for the products with satisfactory delivery support others that are usually expected by such customers, including without limitation, regular sales calls, deliveries, blah blah blah. Right? So, best efforts. Okay. How about Tom? 7.1? Okay, let's look at 7.1. This agreement shall be effective as of the date accepted in writing by corporate officer of shall terminate 1 year from the effective date. Okay. That's it? Is there any other provision about termination? 7.2. Either party to this agreement shall have the right to terminate this agreement without cause. I told you, there are two different types of termination. Termination for cause and termination at will. This is termination at will. Upon 120 days written notice, which means once you exercise the right to terminate, the termination comes 120 days later. Okay? So now, this explains why supplier didn't put in minimum purchase quantity clause. Because the contract is so short, okay, the term of exclusive is so short, and even within that 1 year, it's terminable at will by the supplier. 7.2 says either party, right? So it may sound fair to both parties, both supplier and distributor, but who has more interest in terminating the contract? Does distributor have any interest in terminating this contract? No. Okay, 7.2 is not in any way useful for the distributor. 7.2 is useful for the supplier. So this is why supplier did not care to put in a minimum purchase quantity clause. All right. Now, you learned everything that you need to know about distributorship agreement. Okay. These two slides are the key advices that you need to give to your client. But usually, distributor agreement includes a lot more than this, like this. Now, what I'm going to talk about here is not unique to distributorship agreement. All this can come in any sale and purchase agreement. Any buy-sell agreement will have clauses like this. But because distributorship agreement contemplates these buy-sell transactions, in addition to the provisions that we looked at so far, distributorship agreement has all these other provisions that belong to sale and purchase agreement. So if you're a lawyer, you have to be able to review these clauses as well. Let's look at what they are. First one, orderly. So usually distributorship agreement sets out detailed procedure about how to order products. Okay? As I said in the previous class, order can come in under names of different, the documents of different names. Order can come in under the name purchase order, or pro forma invoice, or offer sheet. Okay, the name doesn't matter. Now, let's say distributor gets the exclusive distributorship agreement, but does not really make any order other than the minimum purchase quantity. Okay. Usually the supplier wants to sell as much as possible, and it's really difficult for supplier to reject a perfectly good order from overseas, especially in an export-oriented country like Korea. So it's usually a threat that Korean supplier can never deliver, but there is that theoretical possibility. Okay. Question. Let's say the contract is silent about appointing a sub-distributor. Okay. What is a sub-distributor? Well, instead of distributor selling directly to consumer, can sell to sub-distributor, and sub-distributor can sell to consumers. Now, let's say the contract doesn't say whether sub-distributor can be appointed or not. What's the default rule? Can distributor appoint sub-distributor? Yes? No? What's your vote? Yes, raise your hand. Yes. No, raise your hand. Okay. Yes. Default, okay. All right, answer is right there. Default is, in a capitalist economy, in a market economy, it's really important that one's ownership of a thing is complete. Now, once supplier sells product to distributor, supplier shall have no control over what distributor does with that product. If it's really buy and sell, if it's really sell and purchase, that means that distributor should be able to do whatever that he or she wants to do. If the distributor wants to sell through another person, of course, it should be allowed. If the ownership relationship is not that clear, the market economy cannot function. That's why we have antitrust law. I'll tell you more about antitrust law in a minute. Now, since this is a buy-sell agreement, there has to be a clause on prices, right? So the prices that supplier gives to distributor. So I call that SD prices. Now, how do you set it? How can you set it? Well, you can just predetermine it, which means the contract comes with a price list. KX 200, KX 200, KX 200, $150, right? Or you can make it subject to good faith change. You can never ever control the resale price of the product that you already sold. This also comes from the antitrust law. Again, in the market economy, once you part with a product, you have to lose all the control. If you try to control what happens to the product that you no longer own, the market economy stops functioning. At least that's the theory. At least that's the theory of market economy. And all over the world, resale, so this is called resale price maintenance, RPM. Resale price maintenance is one of the clearest violations of antitrust law. You can go to jail for that. In some countries, other than Korea, antitrust law is a criminal law. Now, that's something that you never want to do. Then what advice can you give to your supplier client if you don't like what distributor is doing? If distributor is undermining the global pricing strategy of yours, what can global pricing strategy of your client, what can tell your supplier?
Even if ordered, reject.
Yes, good. You are a fast learner. Yeah. So that way, supplier can pressure the distributor to change his behavior. Okay, any other question, comment? No? Good. We are out of time.